Welcome to the Make Each Click Count podcast. This is your host, Andy Splichal, and we are happy to welcome this week's guest to discuss today's topic, which is increasing conversions using a UX-centric approach. Today's guest is the founder of Spark DSG, a digital design and development agency that works to solve complex business problems with measurable outcomes. A big welcome to Justin Max. Hi, Justin.
Hey, Andy, thanks for having me on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on.
Yeah.
Now, your agency is a little bit different. It specializes in using a UX-centric approach. But before we dive into all that, can you start for those listeners who may not know what exactly is a UX-centric approach?
Yeah, for sure. So UX is just an acronym. It's user experience. So if your audience is mostly on the marketing side of things, and marketing's job is to generate awareness, drive traffic, sell to prospective customers. We're sort of on the other side of that. So really what we're talking about is serving the needs of the user or the customer when they hit a digital experience and really trying to decrease friction in the interaction so that they can complete a task easier, have better satisfaction with an experience, and hopefully come back to that whatever business it is. And just kind of, like I was saying, reduce friction in order to increase metrics and the conversion rates that we're looking to drive.
So going back to your bio for a moment, it said that you guys solve complex business problems. What are some examples of those you have solved for clients, and how did you measure the outcomes?
Yeah, sure. So we don't work in just e-commerce. We work across industry verticals. So we have to be pretty nimble. So the user-centric approach that I mentioned, what we're really trying to get at there is, we really want to understand what's the customer's objectives, what are their roadblocks, what are they thinking, feeling, what's sort of the context of their use, and maybe there's some other influencing factors and how that all marries up to business strategy and maybe an existing digital experience. So because we work across industries, we have to think against those things broadly, and then after we understand the business or the challenge that we're trying to solve for, then apply those sorts of principles to that challenge. So like we might work with a healthcare firm on a B2B SaaS product one day, and then be working with a fashion or cosmetic retailer or home goods retailer the next day. We're using the same approach across those different industries. So I find that some of our most complicated problems that we're trying to solve are with digital products, especially B2B products. We're typically working with companies that have, sort of a niche space, that have a very specific user base. And we really have to dig in the weeds to understand exactly what they're trying to do first and foremost, and then who they are and kind of what those concerns are. So for us, like an example would be, we did some work with a healthcare company that has hardware installation in hospital settings. So if we're trying to solve like a digital experience problem, we're designing a new system or optimizing a system like that, we're thinking about things like physical space across an entire campus, context of use of like installing software, or not software, hardware, workflows. And we're thinking like not just about the actual user interface, but the context of use and how someone actually has to use this product or this system. So, as an example here, one of the goals of this one client's problem was that they were looking to streamline a process that was largely offline, that was very manual, but was also massively complicated. So the main thing they were trying to impact was just time to design and provision and install these systems and test them. And through a UX process of understanding the user, what their needs were, and kind of challenges they specifically had, we were able to identify opportunities to create a better digital product. And an example of that was in doing customer or user interviews. We learned that the installers sometimes are tracking like tens of thousands of steps
Mhm.
in their day. And you'd think, oh, it's because the the campuses are massively huge, and it's just natural that they would have all this travel in their day-to-day workflow. But that wasn't the case. The issue was that the existing system didn't allow for like alerts and tasks to be grouped by location. So they would get an alert for something, go take care of it, go to the next piece of hardware, get an alert on their phone or their device, go take care of it, and literally just zigzagging crossing the campus. So just by understanding that one thing about a user, we're able to introduce a piece of functionality that's pretty simple, which is just co-locate alerts and tasks just based off a location in a physical space. So that's like a, yeah.
So, I mean, you had mentioned the UX process.
Yep.
What is that process? What do you go through when looking at a website?
Yep. So at Spark, we have a process we call ideas, which is initiate, discover, execute, assess, and support. It's 5 phases of our end-to-end project lifecycle. In each of those phases, we have steps that we have defined, tasks that we would define, and kind of getting at that fundamental, essential information that influences our decision making is in the discover process. So we are doing things like upfront, we're of course doing stakeholder interviews, we're doing customer interviews, we're doing heuristic audits of existing systems. We're doing persona development and creation, making sure we understand intimately all the folks that are using a system and experience. We might even do some user testing, moderated and unmoderated user testing. Kind of what we're looking to do is really identify unmet needs, unrealized issues with a system, and we're looking to triage them, improve usability, and then in some cases, surprise and delight with something that wasn't there previously that we uncover through this investigation that needs to be there.
So for an e-commerce company, how does a UX provider like yourself differ from a CRO, conversion rate optimization company?
It's interesting because I get asked that question occasionally. And I think for us at Spark, I think the difference is that because we're not specifically just churning on e-commerce, I think we're able to bring some of the things to bear from outside our space, or outside the e-commerce space to e-com. So, we might be doing similar things in terms of conversion rate optimization, but I find that CRO organizations are, I think, usually running against a set of best practices, and there's a little bit of a playbook there. And yeah, we can do those sorts of things as well. But I think where we gain a bit of benefit, specifically in e-com, is when we have unique experiences that maybe there isn't a playbook for, or a set of best practices. So an example of this might be there's 2 that come to mind. One is fairly recent, which is we're working with a cosmetics company that has a twice annual promotion. And it's a big seller, it's doing great. But through our process of talking with customers, understanding exactly how they were thinking about considering product, how they moved through a workflow, we're talking about a unique experience. It's not just like a PLP page, a PDP page, cart. It's a unique sort of micro experience on the site that has its own UI conventions. So there aren't these sort of best practices to lean on. So through that process, we were able to identify, specific optimization opportunities and kind of wholesale changes to what they had previously. And just kind of going through that process, we're able to get, I think it was 12% lift on conversion and 41% increase in revenue for that particular.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it was really good. It's like a very big success story for us. And then another instance was, this is some years ago, but we did work for Uniqlo in Japan, their mobile e-com experience. And, I think a CRO company that was US based might struggle with this, but because we're coming at it from our perspective of running through our sort of the activities that we like to conduct for UX understanding, we were able to understand in their market, there were kind of considerations that we didn't have in the US that were just different. So understanding the Japanese consumer there, like there was a much greater appetite for content at large and content density that as designers in the US would be counterintuitive to how we might lay out specific pages and things. And also just how they positioned and sold the product was different than our assumptions and where we might have come from. So things like daily sales and printed promotions were actually a big deal when we were working with them. So just kind of learning about the unique audience and their unique needs in different markets and in different instances, I think is kind of how we would be considered a bit different than a CRO.
Now, when you say you're talking to your clients' customers, is somebody on your team actually picking up the phone and calling them, or is it like a hot jar survey that you're collecting the information?
We'll do some surveying, but that's largely if we want to get some quick quantitative information. We find that the more insightful moments that uncover things are done through, moderated user testing or direct conversation, because you get a moment to explore, the why. Not just what their answer is. And also the depth of the answer is typically a bit better when it's done, one-to-one. Surveys are great, but for us, we just find that the depth and quality of the insights are a bit better when we actually reach out and chat with folks. And then in some cases, we'll even do things like diary studies where we're with a consumer.
A diary study?
Yep.
What is that?
So that is where you are tracking a user's journey across multiple days. So it's a time-intensive exercise and a bit more costly in terms of consumer, the incentives you need to use for the study. But if you have something where you're curious about how they live and breathe with an experience or a brand, a diary study can be a great way to kind of get at that evolution of the experience. And I find it, we use it a little bit more when there's maybe a native app or something in play where, from the moment they learn about it to they download, to they use it for the first time, to, the 6th, 7th, 8th time, how does their experience with that product change over time? And what insights can you learn from that? So that's where like a diary study can be very helpful.
And what are you looking to uncover? I mean, when you get on the phone and you're talking to your clients' customers, what kind of questions are you asking? I mean, what are you really trying to get at?
I think it depends greatly on the nature of the challenge. But like, for instance, let's say we have an e-com retailer who's a home goods retailer, right? Selling furniture, right? So that would be a very interesting interview because you'd want to learn about how they think about purchasing a large piece of furniture that they're going to live with that needs to fit into their home, a physical space, and what that would be like. What is the mental process of evaluating that in a digital experience to the point where you're comfortable to proceed with the conversion, right? And a conversation like that's going to result in anecdotes and insights that you just wouldn't be able to anticipate put into a survey question. And folks just don't really typically contribute much when you do open-ended survey questions. So you can poke and prod a little bit more when you're chatting with a consumer in that way.
Now, for businesses who are, let's say, can't afford an agency or a fee, would it be safe to say that they should be doing this on their own even?
Yes, for sure. And a lot of our customers too, like the way that we work with our clients is highly collaborative. So in some cases there might be a UX person on the team internally. And that's great. But that doesn't mean we can't provide value and help them out. So we're actually, it's pretty common we're working with internal teams, and then obviously where there's a gap, we fill that gap. But yeah, retailers, businesses, can and should be doing this, right? Customer insights, it's nothing new. Like, we don't own the idea of gathering insight from your customer. I think the difference here is just how you apply that to the thinking about interface design and digital design and development to make the most impact.
How responsive are customers? I mean, to most of them, they'll they'll jump on the phone, they'll answer some questions, or I guess a lot of I think that business owners be worried about that are going to be bothering their customers. But I guess how receptive have you found for customers on taking a survey?
Well, there's two ways to run it. One is, and this is a great way, is just utilize your database of customers and find highly loyal customers that are willing to and excited to contribute. And they're out there, they exist. You also, just a level of incentivization is just very helpful, and they expect that to some degree. But also, like, we'll recruit certain profiles and demographics and psychographics for this sort of thing too. So it might be there's various tools that you can use for that. And for instance, we use Respondent, which we like quite a bit. We can, through them, we can set up demographic profiles, and then screen our questions and things to get at customers when our clients are reticent to reach out to their own contact pool. But sorry, Andy.
No, I was just wondering, AI is everywhere now. Have you guys implemented any sort of AI processes in what you do?
Very lightly. It's interesting. I feel like over the next, well, not even over the next, now, most businesses that I interact with are, I don't want to say scrambling, but trying to figure it out. Trying to figure out, like, well, shoot, do we acquire someone? Is there a third party we should be working with? What's the best option for us? And everyone's trying to shake this out. It kind of reminds me, Andy, I'm not sure when you started your career, but I started my career as a designer during the 90s .com bubble. And it feels a little bit like that time. Everyone's not sure. They know they should be sort of trying to figure out what to do and where to be in that space. So I think it'll be an interesting progression. I mean, the companies that we work with for sure are looking into this. And on our side, candidly, we're using it to support, our strategy work in ways, our content creation way, and promotion for our own agency. And we have a couple clients who have started some strategic partnerships, and we're involved in the implementation and integration of those partnerships. So it's not something that Spark is going to go out and create an AI tools, but we are being involved in helping implement and figuring out the right ways that they fit into the digital landscape for our retailers or for our clients that we work with.
Now, you had mentioned working on it in the late 90s. When did you launch Spark?
2012.
Oh, okay.
No, 2011. Oh my gosh, 2011.
And
2011.
And have there been any business books that you could attribute to your journey as a business owner and entrepreneur?
Yeah. I like this is a very thin, easy, quick read book, but I like it a lot, which is Outcomes Over Outputs by Joshua Seiden. That's a great read. Crossing the Chasm is a good one. I actually got a lot of value of a colleague / friend of mine, Jamie Flinchbaugh, just wrote a book called People Solve Problems. He's a lean consultant, but I found as an entrepreneur and a business owner that I took a lot of value out of some of the things that he had to say in there that I applied to my business. So, but aside from that, I like podcasts. I find actually podcast content fits a bit better into my life. I can more easily kind of integrate that. But yeah, there's a bunch of great books out there, but those are just a couple that come to mind.
Now, I'm curious, when somebody comes to you guys, do they already know they have a problem? I mean, what's the pain point that makes them figure they got to do something?
Yeah. It's usually, it's funny. Are we a vitamin or are we a painkiller? We're a bit of both, right? Like, the companies that know they should be doing UX work are proactive, and we're a bit of a vitamin. We come in, we help them kind of maintain and optimize. But we do get clients who are like, we don't know what's going on here. We need you guys to investigate this issue and help us sort it out. So, but if I had to pick one, I think most people come to us because they have an issue that needs sorting out. A lot of times outside of it's funny, in the e-com space, it's a bit more of like, we just want ongoing optimization. We think you guys bring something to the table. We love your design work, and we think you will provide value. Our other work, where we do digital product work, it's more of a painkiller, and it's usually because a technologist has started a SaaS company, and then they realize they've never really incorporated design into the process. They've just figured out the features and functionality they need to build, and then realize it's not working for folks, and they don't know why. They don't know where to start. So I think for us, it's kind of split based off of what type of company is coming to us.
So for your e-com clients, do you have a preferred platform that you guys use if you're doing like a redesign?
We're in Shopify a lot. Yeah. But usually we're fairly platform agnostic, both in terms of e-com platforms and CMS systems and things like that. There's a couple we tend to spend more time in. Shopify is the one we're probably spending the most time in, for sure. That's shifted over the years, but yeah, that would be the case now.
And do you have a favorite success story of one of your clients you could share?
Can I give you like a personal growth / business success story? Does it have to be just
Yeah, sure. That sounds great.
Well, that opportunity with Uniqlo was massive for me. And if there's entrepreneurs out there listening, I'm sure a lot of you have had this moment where, kind of luck meets your expertise. And so that was a big win for us. This was a bunch of years ago. Landing Uniqlo was a big deal. And, we were up against some big agencies in an RFP. And I didn't think we stood a shot just because of some of the agencies that were in the mix. But we won it. There was some combination of, what we brought to the table. We put a ton of effort into the pitch, and, the organization was willing to take a chance on us. That taught me a lot about just going for it. So in a way, that was a success story. But then the other piece of that was just being completely intimidated by the opportunity, but working the problem. And like I mentioned, that one there was so much to learn in terms of who our users were, how to work within a Japanese business culture. I'd never done that before. How to handle late nights with the time zone. Mm-hmm. Presenting to the president in their, executive boardroom was all very nerve-wracking territory. But myself and my team, we just put our heads down and we worked the problem, and we used the process that we use for every project, this user-centric process, to help solve it. And that just gave me confidence moving forward. So that was a success story in that the project went well. It launched, we improved metrics, but more importantly for me as a solo entrepreneur, it was a reinforcing moment where, you're able to land a big project, fulfill it, and then, overcome your own insecurities and doubts and things, and take your team with you for the ride. So that was a very cool one.
And how does your guys' fee structure work?
Yep. Yeah. So we really value long-term relationships with the clients. So we have about half of our client relationships are retainer based. And that works really well. We tend to be a true extension of the client's team in those cases. It's usually with larger clients, and where we're filling, a gap in terms of their capability set. So, and that's both on the design and technology side. So like I said, about half are retainer based, and that works really well. And we do pride ourselves in doing regular quarterly account meetings, making sure everyone's satisfied, that we're accountable for things, and that we're planning for things moving forward, bringing ideas to the table. That's another nice thing about being a retainer, is that we can be very proactive. We're not receiving requests exclusively. We're also saying, hey, you should be considering this. You should do X, Y, Z. Can we put this on the agenda for next month? And then we still get a fair amount of project work, fixed fee work. That tends to be more the one-off. But we always try and establish and do great work for those clients, so they come back and want to sign on for something a little bit more long-term.
And are the fees custom? I mean, it just depends on what the project is, and you figure out, what an ongoing retainer is, or a one-time project work, or how.
Yeah, we from a fee structure standpoint, we incentivize the retainer. We have a tiered system where the retainer rate is at a pretty good discount to the fixed fee rate. So that's another attractive thing for our clients. We value the fact that they're dedicating or committing to an ongoing retainer, and for that we reduce our rate for our clients. So that tends to work out well for everyone.
And who is the perfect client for Spark? If they're out there listening, they should absolutely get a hold of you guys.
Yeah, I think there's, like I was saying, my background is in e-commerce, so we have a number of e-commerce clients. I think we are a great fit for an organization that is at a scale where they're well beyond startup mode, but they don't necessarily want to commit to hiring a full design team or UX team. Typically, that client has creative to handle marketing assets and promotional items, but in between redesigns needs a team to help optimize, tweak, and work with a product owner internally to make sure that the e-commerce machine is humming along. And then on the digital product side, mid-market companies are great for us, or corporations, again, that just don't have the capability set built out and are looking to fix some issue that they know exists, but they just don't know where to start.
And for your e-com work, are you working with clients on their own websites like a Shopify, or do you venture into like Amazon stores?
No, we don't. Their own sites. We don't delve into Amazon marketplaces at all. So, it would be, working specifically with the retailers.com and, whatever e-com platform they might be on, and just collaborating with their internal teams to execute.
And how can an interested listener learn more about working with you guys?
Yeah, you can reach out to us via our website, which is sparkdsg.com, or hit us up on our Instagram or even my LinkedIn account, Justin Max. Feel free to reach out. I love getting in conversations with, with other businesses and even other entrepreneurs who just want to talk shop. I always find a lot of value in just having a connection with folks and hearing their story as well. So any of those channels for sure.
Well, this has been great. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up today?
No, this is it, Andy. Thanks. I really appreciate the time. Podcast is great. I've been enjoying the episodes I've been listening to. So thank you very much.
Well, great. Well, thanks again for joining us today, Justin.
All right. Thanks, Andy.
For listeners, remember, if you like this episode, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us an honest review. And if you're looking for more information regarding Spark DSG or connecting with Justin, you will find the links in the show notes below. In addition, if you're looking for more information on growing your business, check out our podcast resource center available at podcast.makeeachclickcount.com. We have compiled all the different past guests by show topic and included each of their contact information in case you would like more information on any of the services I've discussed during previous episodes. Well, that's it for today. Remember to stay safe, keep healthy, and happy marketing, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.